This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, June 9th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing markets here today. But first, my conversation from the World Pork Expo, where I'm joined by Dr. Meredith Petersen of the National Pork Board, and we learn about the kickoff to the National Swine Health Strategy.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined now by Meredith Petersen with the National Pork Board. Meredith, thanks so much for taking the time to join me here today at World Pork Expo 2025. Could you tell me your role within the National Pork Board, please?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I am a Director of Swine Health with the National Pork Board. So I'm a veterinarian, work on all things swine health related, both on the education side as well as the research side.
And I know that you are here at World Pork Expo talking about a big initiative that the National Pork Board is excited about. Could you tell us a little bit about it, please?
Absolutely. So we're really excited to be kicking off the National Swine Health Strategy here at the World Pork Expo. What this is an effort to kind of get producer input to understand what the top swine health challenges that they face are, and what we can do, or what the industry as a whole can do to hopefully address those challenges. So we are collecting input from producers this week at World Pork Expo. We have a survey at our booth, and we've been really energized to see that over 200 producers in one day filled out our survey to tell us about what they're struggling with in terms of swine health and what they'd like us to help with. So we're gathering this input over the summer to inform the development of a national swine health strategy. So that producer input is the key to making this thing successful.
So what are some of those things on the producer input side that they're listing as challenges right now that they're dealing with?
Yeah, so it falls into a lot of different buckets. We have asked them intentionally. We've kept the questions broad. So ask them, what are the swine health challenges that they think the industry should work to address in the next 1 to 3 years? When we think about that, there's a few different buckets that things tend to fall into. The first is endemic disease, so diseases like PRRS, PED, things that we see every day. There's also the threat of foreign animal disease. We want to make sure we don't take our eye off the ball in terms of foreign animal disease. But then there's a variety of other things. We typically think about the bugs and drugs of swine health, but there's a lot of things that affect the health of the pig. Things like barn environment, genetics, nutrition. So we're really asking them for broad input on what from their perspective, what are the top challenges for swine health? And we're getting a lot of broad industry input here at World Pork Expo, but we'll be collecting data through the summer, going to meetings, holding listening sessions, and sharing producer surveys out to producers. So that's really the key component of this, the National Swine Health Strategy being successful.
How do you find that balance then between diseases that, yes, we know we need to be preparing against, like African swine fever, those types of foreign animal diseases, but then also the diseases that producers deal with every single day, and they already have those real world issues they're dealing with?
Yeah, so it's a delicate balance for sure, because we have the things that are challenging our producers and our pigs on the farm every day. We know there's a significant economic impact of disease, specifically, the big one is PRRS virus, right? So there's a big economic impact, and that impacts our profitability for producers, but also the effects of a foreign animal disease on the U.S. swine industry would be incredibly significant. So the way that we're kind of trying to balance that is first gathering producer input, so understanding what their top priorities are. And then we have an advisory group of producers who will take that information and kind of establish the direction for the industry. So this is a producer-led, producer-focused effort. So we're really, relying on them, those producer leaders, to help guide us in that direction. And I'm sure that we'll have a balanced approach in terms of, the things we fight every day, but also the potential future concerns. really what's important is that we get the producer input through the summer. And so that's critical in the success of this program.
So then what would be the next step after you have that information, the input from the producers, you're gathering it all together, and then you're making this actionable plan? Is that the end goal then?
Yeah, so that advisory group will provide some direction for us. It might look like priorities for the industry to focus on. And then that's where the strategy comes in. That's where the tactical, how can we make some actionable things to work on that have measurable outcomes. And so really what we're trying to do is pretty simple. We're trying to improve the health of pigs, which in turn will improve the lives of our people. And so we do anticipate that this will hopefully have some broad industry direction that anyone who works on behalf of pork producers, whether it's our national organizations, our state associations, or some external partners, can kind of align their work in the areas that producers tell us are important to them.
And the good news is we already have the real world evidence in the fact that we've seen how efficient our producers have gotten to reach this point. So we know that they're doing things the right way. It's just even continuing to improve those practices, I would assume.
Absolutely, absolutely. Raising pigs is a great profession, and it's a lot more fun when the pigs are healthy. And so we're trying to do everything we can from the national organization level to help make some progress in the areas that we struggle with. And when we have the whole industry kind of represented in our data and we get to hear feedback from all segments of the industry, we can make a lot of progress, and we're excited to see where this goes.
Meredith, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa pork producers or Iowa listeners know about when it comes to this initiative that you're working on, or just anything else that you're excited about National Pork Board right now?
Absolutely. So the National Swine Health Strategy will continue to be a kind of evolving project through the summer. What's important for producers to know is that we want to hear from them. We are all ears in terms of their swine health challenges and how we can hopefully help to move the needle on those. And so producers should go to porkcheckoff.org and sign up for our weekly email. Through that email, they'll get a survey link where they can give us their feedback. Also attend industry events. We'll be at industry events throughout the summer, handing out QR codes for them to fill out the survey and holding listening sessions where they can share with us in person what things they're struggling with and what their expectations are or what they think would help them at the farm level. So I would just encourage producers to give us their feedback. We are very open to their input, and I think that's the critical component to make the National Swine Health Strategy successful.
Meredith Petersen with the National Pork Board, my guest here today at World Pork Expo. Meredith, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of the expo.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Dr. Meredith Petersen of the National Pork Board for joining today's show. It is time now for the closing markets. I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You are watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Time now for the closing markets on Ag Matters PM, and I'm joined now by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, what did we see in the trade in the grains here today?
So pressure came on to the corn and wheat markets. Now, corn fell back significantly from their 2-week highs that were set last week or at the end of last week. Really conditions show no signs of real concern anywhere. Now, we know there's going to be some prevent plant that's going to be happening in Ohio, surrounding states in that area. There's projections, could be possibly up to 1 million acres. Now, that could be prevent plant on corn. Some of that might be switched over to soybeans yet. We don't know exactly how much that's going to be, and that may not show up specifically even on the acreage report that we get on June 30th. But there are some issues in some areas. Now, that would cause a little bit of concern last week, but basically going over the weekend with good coverage of rain in a lot of areas, that kind of knocked the support out underneath the market again, dropping back. There's President Trump is meeting with, or I shouldn't say President Trump, some U.S. delegates are meeting with Chinese delegates in London today. trying to work out some of the issues with the tariff situation that's been going on between there. We don't know what's going to materialize out of that, or if basically it's just going to be working toward that end at this point in time. We did have export inspections out today. Corn export inspections were above trade estimates at 1.657 million metric ton. Estimate was 1.3 million metric ton. Soybeans were at 547,040 metric tons. That was way above the expectations for 280,000. And wheat was 290,957 metric ton. That was below expectations of 375. So the better inspections on corn didn't have any impact. It was not able to really provide any support today. Soybeans held fairly well today. The real pressure came on the corn and wheat, but soybeans actually held up fairly well. You're looking at some continued fairly decent demand. China's imports of beans, not just from the U.S., but imports in general, were significantly higher than they were the previous month and a year ago. So China was holding back for a while. Now they've really stepped up and imported some from all over the place, but it shows that their demand is still really, really good yet. Now, we have the WASDE report out on Thursday. The estimates are for corn to see a decrease in ending stocks to 1.389. That's the average estimate, down from 1.415. Soybeans at 355, that's a little bit higher than the previous estimate, the actual previous one that was released in May. And wheat at 844, slightly higher than what it was on the previous May report as well. So production, or I shouldn't say, that's grain ending stocks, yeah. Now, if we're looking at getting some real support off of that report, it may be hard to come by unless there's something that really is going to be changed by the USDA, but we don't foresee anything of that right now. Crop conditions are expected to be a little bit better maybe this week than last week as far as corn and soybeans are. Argentina soybeans as well are coming out better than expected as far as their yields are concerned, even though there's some delays on rain right now. But versus estimates and weather and what's coming out right now, they're looking at a fairly strong production coming out of that sector.
On the other side of the ag marketplace, how did the livestock side trade here on Monday?
Well, the cattle market continued with their new contract highs. They did kind of settle back toward the end of the day, but when we looked at last week, we had some incredible gains in the cash market. Southern cash for live cattle were up $10, Northern dressed up $13. That was a phenomenal increase. Really put the support under that market on Friday. Box beef was mixed last week, but we did see both categories up at midday today. Choice up $1.53, select up $3.15. We're not seeing that the market's hitting any kind of resistance. Consumer demand seems to be holding well. Packers have been trying to improve margins by cutting some of their slaughter, but they have not been able to surround themselves with enough cattle yet in order to put them in the driver's seat. The feedlots are the ones in the driver's seat, and they continue to hold for higher prices. It's been working well for them. We all know that it's not going to continue forever, but there is no indication of any real upside resistance on this market at this point in time. So it's just been incredible to watch the strength that we've seen in that cattle market, and it seems to almost be increasing in support under that market. So it's just a phenomenal market to watch at this point in time. On the hog side, now that's just not quite the same strength as the cattle market, but we continue to see new contract highs in hogs. When we look at the July and later contracts, they're making new contract highs. There's an optimism there for higher cash prices, as we move through the summer, at least, into the later part of the year, other than they have discounts to what it is in the summer months, but is still making new contract highs. Now, June goes off the board on Friday, and that's holding at over $102 right now. The National Daily Direct midday report didn't show any real change because there weren't enough traded. So due to the confidentiality, they didn't post anything. But we've seen some nice gains in the cash market last week. Cutouts were down 68 cents at the midday report today. However, we still see pork values up at 110.83. It's been a long time since we've seen things like that. So packers have been, as well, like cattle, they've been reducing slaughter a little bit lately. Packer margins are not very good, but demand seems to be improving, and it's just pushing that market. And even though hogs are in kind of an overbought territory, it really does not seem to be making any difference at this point in time.
Robin Schmahl, agmarket.net, my guest here today for Closing Markets. Robin, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
They can call me directly if they would like at 877-256-3253. They could go to our website. The Ag Market phone number is there, 844-424-6758. They can feel free to call in, and somebody will pick up the phone and be able to answer their questions.
Robin, thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you, and it's always a pleasure being on.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for joining today's show. Let's take a look at how the markets closed today, and we can find that information under the Markets tab of our website anytime at iowaagnet.com.
July corn closes down 9 cents at 433.5. July soybeans down 1 1/4 at 10.56 even. July soybean meal down 20 cents at 295.50. July soybean oil down 12 cents at 47.38. Chicago wheat down 12 3/4 at 5.42 even. Minneapolis wheat down 12 3/4 at 6.22.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 11 3/4 at 5.37.5. July oats down 2 3/4 at 3.80 1/4. On the Merc, June live cattle up 70 cents at 227 even. August feeder cattle up $1.50 at 311.65. July lean hogs up 10 cents at 107.20. July pork cutout up 78 cents at 115.75. June class 3 milk up 7 cents at 18.84.
That's going to do it for our closing markets here today and bring us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Click on the notification icon to let you know whenever there's any new videos available for you to view. You can follow us on social media at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast, as well as our daily episodes of our Iowa Ag Matters podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Petersen, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.